Welcome to the Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast, the ultimate destination for business leaders and change makers like you, who are not just satisfied with success, but are striving to create a lasting impact. I'm your host, Nico van de Venne, a legacy coach, entrepreneur, and fervent believer in the power of legacy. Do you find yourself pondering what's beyond success? Have you ever thought about the legacy you'll leave behind? If so, you're in the right place. Here, we don't just talk about business. We talk about the journey from success to legacy. Each week, we'll dive deep into insightful conversations with distinguished entrepreneurs, legacy builders, and experts in various fields. We'll uncover the secrets to creating a sustainable business, transcending societal norms, and building a legacy that will shape future generations. So if you're ready to go beyond profits and accolades, to create a life and business that not only succeeds today but impacts tomorrow, then stick around, because the Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast is the roadmap you've been waiting for. Welcome back to the Epic Entrepreneurs Podcast. We are going to have a conversation about leadership, because it's sometimes one of the roles that is underestimated in a lot of ways. In these last 25 years of my career, I've been privileged to manage a lot of different cultures, a lot of different people, a lot of different profiles. And among my coaching, I've had the extra privilege of meeting amazing people who have a great mission in life, a nice vision, and they actually have a legacy. And sometimes people don't even know that they are building a legacy, because a legacy is built on breadcrumbs. About leadership, one of the most difficult things I found in my role as a leader, and I'm actually talking about not only being a so-called boss for X amount of people, I'm also talking about my leadership for my surroundings. Could be family, could be friends, could be colleagues, could be peers. But as a coach, a mentor, and as a manager, an executive, I've had the experience that seeing people fail is sometimes one of the most difficult things that you can see happen. We have the tendency to grab into a situation when it comes up, when there is a problem, when something goes wrong, when there's something that really misses the point or really fails right in front of you or in the organization that you work with. And that could also happen with somebody outside of your organization, somebody who calls you and says, "Oh, I have this and that happening. How do you see this is going to resolve, or how can I resolve, or whatever," something's like that. And in the past years, I've learned to step back instead of stepping in, and it has enriched my point of view immensely, because we have so many times that we pick up a perspective from somebody and we start working with that perspective. And as an individual, we also have our own perspective of the world. And it's one of the things that you need to bear in mind, that you have a single point of view. I think it's in NLP when they talk about the map of the world, and when you have to look at the map of the world, which means that you actually look at your surroundings, but you have an inner map as well. And that inner map is based on your experience, your past, your influences. You have been influenced by a lot of different means, actually. It's not only a classical story where you've been influenced from your education or parents or family or friends. Those are usually the most obvious kinds. But you're also influenced by the way your energy was at the point that something happens. So if you're stressed and excited and pushing and being very, very active, then your perspective changes because you're in a flow and you're really going for it, and all the stuff that happens around you needs to be resolved really quickly. You have to move forward, otherwise this or that and that effect will occur. Now, when the conversation comes up, when a third party, let's say, has an issue, that's the point where you as an individual need to step back. You need to take the time to really reflect on what the problem is. And I've been guided by many mentors. I've had a lot of coaches, and one of the, I would say, the wires, the red wires that come through all those coachings and so on, is that in every problem, within the problem, there is a solution. So it's not necessarily looking around the story that needs to be done to find an actual solution. It is usually within the problem that you find a solution. And the first step there is just actually writing down what the problem is. Really physically taking a piece of paper and saying, we are having this issue and it has this and this effect. Just by doing that, you already are changing your perspective. You're stepping back. You're actually writing it down, and you're actually putting it down on paper, and not within your head, not within your active thinking patterns. And as a coach, or mentor, it's been a challenge to see people run right into that problem and try to solve it with whatever means that surround them. They're not looking into the problem. They're actually looking around the problem and seeing if there's any solution or anybody that can help them. So in the past, I've actually seen people really run into walls because I explicitly wanted them to. It sounds really harsh, but if you think about it, if I would hold everybody's hand who has a problem, who has an issue, and they come to me, they would actually not learn from the problem. They always say you have to learn from your mistakes, but also you have to learn from problems that happen. And taking away that opportunity to learn is actually taking away a very valuable part of somebody's life. Because why is the problem? Why does it exist? It's because something needs to come into that person's life to learn something. Yes, I am a very vivid believer that we find and we come into contact with certain situations to learn from them. And that is amazing. It is amazing as humans that we can actually do that. And the more you see, or the more you manage people, or you're in a leadership position, it's important to disconnect from problem solving. If you're solving all the problems within your organization and you're not giving people the opportunity to solve them themselves, or guiding them in the solution, or making those final decisions, then they lose a very big opportunity. And that also reflects back to you, because why do people come to you? Because you usually are used to solving problems, so they kind of become dependent on you. One of my missions in life is to become the person that is irrelevant, where people will come to me for guidance, for coaching, for mentoring, and after a while, I let them go. And I can assure you, at the start of my coaching career in 2016, I was not that person. I wanted to solve everything. People were looking at me, they were coming over, they were asking the questions, I was giving them answers and really spoon feeding them, because in the end, at some points, I actually started creating even content and putting them into my communication, saying, well, I've talked to that person, you really need to go to that person for XYZ, and by in that way actually promoting them and giving them the solution, what they were actually looking for, which was usually more customers or stuff like that, or a new job. And then at the end, what did it cause? It actually drained me. It drained me as a person. It drained me from my lessons. It drained me from a lot of things. And it's amazing when you start thinking about what you can actually cause when you say, let me make it very clear. It's not that you don't want to help people anymore, or you're not going to help them at all. On the contrary, you're going to give them the most powerful gifts that can be given to a person, which is independence, which is standing on your own feet, which is doing your thing on your own way, your own method, your own steps. And in that story, you're there to guide them. It's not that you're just, dropping them on the side and saying, no, I'm not solving your problems. No, the one that needs to listen, that's your role. You have to listen to what they're talking about. Because like the piece of paper, when they write it down on the piece of paper, not to be blunt, but you're the piece of paper. And if they can talk to you, they call you and say, oh, I have this problem. I have one of my employees who's acting up. He's not coming in on time. He's not doing his job. I don't know how to handle this person because, I don't know, they're very aggressive in communication. Basically, when I hear all those stories, I usually go into the more rigid mode of saying, what the hell is that person doing in your company? But it could also be a phase for somebody. You might have lost a loved one, with which you lose your beliefs in the world or in existence. It's a bit radical, so you switch over to being very aggressive, less communicative, etc. So that could be also the situation. So the perspective of that one person who's coming late might be completely different, or the experience might be completely different. And as a manager, to manage those situations, it's not always easy. But as a leader, you step into the story where you start a conversation with somebody and listen to them. So the person calling me, explaining that they have somebody who's coming in late, who's not acting, who's actually acting up in his company, is going to vent his story, his problem to me, in which I am the listener. And then as he's done his, dump of frustration or questions or whatever, they can turn around and go over to that other person who actually gets the opportunity to explain him or herself at that point. So as a silent listener, you help the middleman solve the problem of the end man, I would call it. And usually something goes wrong there. Absolutely. So it is a kind of a back and forth. So they try to find a solution or get a solution from somebody. They're not getting it. They're going to try. They're going to fail. They're going to learn. They're going to try. They're going to learn. They're going to fail, etc., etc. But every time you're there to listen to them and not give them advice. No, you listen and ask questions. You're not there to solve the problem. You're there to guide the problem or guide the lesson for that one person or the several people that are there with that issue. And now the other side as well is when people start hearing themselves say something about a problem or talking about a problem, they usually, they get a little blink in their eye where the epiphany moment comes out and it's like, oh yeah, I can try that. Or maybe this will happen, or that can be the solution, which is amazing because if you're sitting there just listening, you actually see those moments come up and you can, kind of work into those and say, I see that something's happened. I see something in your face. What exactly is going on in your mind? And they start explaining to you. And then they build on that. And at some point, they actually have a complete solution for the situation that they can try. I'm not going to say it's a complete solution that's going to work, but in their mind, they have a complete solution. And that's very important. So as a leader, like I said, it's one of the most difficult things to actually have somebody come to you with a problem and actually not touching the problem, but listening to the person and asking them questions. So they reflect on the problem and start solving it themselves. Of course, there are different kind of situations. There's not always time to listen. I understand. But on the other hand, is there though? Is there no time? There is always a possibility to take time. There is always that. Because if you don't, the problem can sometimes persist even longer. So that's what I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you got informed and inspired. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll hear you, well, you'll hear me the next time. Bye-bye.